Hello everyone, and welcome back not to the FNAW retrospective series, but rather just back to talking about FNAW in general. Today, I'm going to give my review on the freshly baked, hot out of the oven, well, sort of, Five Nights at Wario's Deluxe. Now I know most of you are still waiting for that FNAW 3 video to come out, and while the editing process has not started yet, the script writing has, so that's a plus. Enough about the future though, let's focus on the now and talk about the official remaster of a mediocre game. Let's get started. First off, I'll discuss a bit of the background behind this game's existence and why all the old FNAW games are getting a makeover. I think we all know that the original 5 FNAW games were not the prettiest to look at, but most of them were still fun to play. We've also been seeing a lot of fan-made remasters of the classic FNAW games like Return to the Factory, Trapped Within, and Brand New Timeline. Not to mention, Andy, aka www Wario, has been in some of these fan games via voice acting. So why not just make it official remaster of all the FNAW games and hire talented fans like Jeb Yoshi and #1 Jenny to help with the graphics and music? Yeah, that's pretty much this game's origin story in a nutshell. Yes, Andy hired fans from the community to help bring these remasters to life, and I think that's an impressive feat, and all of them have done a terrific job on the stuff they have done for these deluxe versions. But enough about pre-release stuff, let's dive into the actual game to find out if it's not only a faithful recreation, but also an improvement over the original. To start, let's address the elephant in the room. The visuals. Everything from the office to the cameras to even the title and game over screen, all of the visuals have been updated for this, and they honestly look so much better than all the 5 classic games combined. If this is what we can expect from the deluxe versions, I am stoked to see what FNAF 3 and FNAF 4 end up looking like. If I had one nitpick though, it's that for some reason the game is still in 4:3. I know the original was, but for a complete remaster with all the visuals and everything being upgraded, I would have at least expected the aspect ratio to also be updated. 5 shows that Wario's was 16:9, so I know that they're more than capable of being in widescreen. In the end, it's serviceable and I can deal with it, but 16:9 would have been appreciated. But just like I and many other people say about some games, it isn't about how they look, but it's about how they play. And how does this one play? Let me check my notes. Oh yeah, like that. Hi kid. Well, I mean, a little. But this game does switch things up in the gameplay department, where some characters have either been slightly tweaked or have been changed drastically. Now, that character in question is Peach, but let's talk about her later. For now, let's talk about the tweaks made to Waluigi, Luigi, and Mario. Waluigi is basically what Luigi used to be, as he only attacks on the right. Luigi is now a combination of Wario and Waluigi, since he can attack from either the left or right side. Lastly, Mario has been changed ever so slightly to where he can kill you much faster now, so be quick about pulling up the monitor when he appears. And of course, we can't ignore it for much longer, Peach has been changed completely. She now attacks from this new area of the map called the cellar. When you see her leave Cam A, listen to 4 other cameras in the cellar to determine where she is. If you hear echoey footsteps going at a rapid pace or weird humming, that's her. Now there's actually 5 other cameras aside from Cam A, but for some reason you cannot use the toggle lamp thing in Cam F, so I don't know what's up with that. But holy hell, is Peach a nuisance in this game. I'd say she is the problem child from night 3 onwards. Remember how I said that you had to listen for her sound effects? Well, it's nearly impossible to do that when her sound effects get drowned out by the ambiance and the other characters' sounds. I had an easier time listening for the footsteps, but most of the time it is impossible to hear the humming she makes. Plus, if you don't get her in time, she'll appear at your left door and break it, which leaves it completely useless. I don't know how people managed to beat the all 20 mode, because let me tell you, I was stuck on night 4 for the longest time, and only until yesterday, by the time I'm recording this, was I able to beat it. That is how hard this game has become. Okay, let's take a bit of a step back just to talk about some miscellaneous things that I cared/didn't care for. Starting off with the newly recorded phone calls, which I honestly didn't care for. Yes, Andy has implemented new versions of the phone calls which give us exactly what we wanted from them. A shit ton of lore exposition. Okay, that's obviously an exaggeration, but that statement holds some merit because the new phone calls just feel like a bunch of big lore dumps, and they aren't even necessary lore dumps. Most of the stuff the phone guide talks about are things that most fans know about already, and if you don't know them, then you're better off just watching the full story video on Andy's channel, considering it's about as long as these phone calls are. Yes, another thing I have a gripe with is that these go on forever. If I knew that beforehand, I likely would have just skipped them, and the only one I probably wouldn't have skipped is Night 3's, where he explains how Peach works. Again, throwing in lore isn't inherently bad, but these phone calls are on Return to Bloody Nights levels of unnecessary lore exposition. If you go back to the original game, while there was some lore in the phone calls, they didn't drag on for nearly as long, and there wasn't much discussed other than, oh yeah, some people died here. Maybe it's just me, but I just feel like the new phone calls could have been trimmed down a bit, and some of the lore exposition could have been saved for future deluxe versions. After all, there are 4 more being made. While on the topic of re-recorded phone calls though, I like to take this into question. That is, are these deluxe versions bringing back YouTubers like Dawko, Razbowski, and Mastermax? It's 2023 now, and compared to 2015, people like Dawko are bigger and busier YouTubers, so the chances of them having time to record something they already did years ago is a bit slim. They also haven't been attached to the series since FNAW Origins, so it's hard to even say if they like these games anymore. I don't know, I'd like to know what you guys think. Will it be a reprisal or a recast? Now, I don't want to be seen as a Debbie Downer, so I'll mention something that I did care about, which is the increased difficulty. It may have seemed like I was ranting and raving about Peach and whatnot, but I do believe the increased challenge makes FNAW 1 more interesting to play. In the original, each time I played it, I just thought to myself, why not just play FNAF 1? But now, there's a reason to keep playing this game. One thing I haven't talked about yet is the power meter, because that has also been insanely nerfed. In the original, you could literally beat Night 6 keeping all the doors shut the entire time. That's how dog the power meter was. In Deluxe, everything drains your power. The lights use up a bunch of it, the cameras and doors do as well, and if you use the lamp and the wrong cellar camera while looking for Peach, that costs you a lot of juice. Again, it's this added challenge and tweaks to the classic gameplay that make Deluxe a big step up from that old 2015 copycat. Speaking of which, I think it's time to give this game a final verdict. To sum it up, this new deluxe version improves on everything from the original and just makes that game completely obsolete. 2 areas I'd say this game falls short in though are the pacing of the phone calls and the lack of 16:9 support. But even so, you can just mute the phone calls and no widescreen isn't the end of the world. So ultimately, I'd say give this game a shot if you never liked FNAF 1 before now, or if you want some added challenge to the classic FNAF 1 formula. So with that, thank you all for watching, subscribe if you're new and you enjoyed, and I'll see you all when I eventually finish that FNAF 3 video. Take care.